Hello, I am Liberty Goodswin. I'm a needle felter from Somerset in England, and in this tutorial I'm going to make, along with you, a sleeping deer or one that's just awake, and I'm going to use this as a full-length video so you can make it along with me and not miss any little snippets, no jumping. Okay, in a minute I'll show you what wools you need and what you need to get started. Also, you can go on our website, goodswinandbell.com, and we sell them as little kits. These little kits are very reasonably priced because they don't have the needles and the felt in. This is for felters who are already up and at it, as it were. And this just has all the wool and felt and bits that you'll need to make the kit. So this is what we're going to be making today. This little sleeping deer, I've put mine in an upside down jar, which works quite nicely, and as you can see, he's moulded and sculpted, but this is quite an easy project to begin with if you want to start making 3D models and you've been doing pictures before, or you're a beginner, because it's all into a piece of felt as opposed to a complete 3D shape like a bird or a dog that's self-standing. If you're slightly more advanced or you're feeling more adventurous, you can make this one. So it's the same base shape as the other one, so the beginning is exactly the same, but what we do, we add the head sitting up like that, still with the snow. I haven't added the toadstools yet on this one, but in the same way, because this one's sitting up, I found one of these in a little shop round the corner, and I thought, slip him in there, and he looks rather sweet, you see, and then you can, almost like a lantern really, and I might put little snow blobs, but I will see. Anyway, that is what we are going to be making today. So now I'm going to run through what felt and wools you need. For this project you'll need a good piece of thick, good quality felt to work on as a base, and a brown piece for some ears, some core wool to make up your centre of your deer body, some soft white wool, some red, a little bit of green, a selection of browns. I also have this one, which you can see it's got a slight reddiness to it, a reddiness tinge, a thick brown one which I'm going to use for making the head of the sitting up deer, and you'll need a little bit of black which is hidden under there. So that is what you'll need today, and your needles, of course. First, get your base piece of felt. If you have a kit, you'll have these little pictures to help you, and also the base shape of the body and how the leg juts out at the bottom. So envisage that shape, or draw it onto your base felt. That pen doesn't work, let's try another one. That's better. I always like to draw my shapes slightly smaller because when I put my wool on top they always grow larger. They always grow larger. It's a little bit like a kidney bean, but with a larger back bit coming up round like that. So that is going to be in my initial shape. I've taken some core wool and I'm going to fill out that shape and build it up like it's a little hill, placing it on top and pressing down with a relatively thick needle. I'm using a pink here, a pink tip, which is a straight star .38 gauge. If you haven't come across my YouTube channel, which is under Liberty Goodswin, I also have a few videos there, just short ones to help you with a few tips on how to roll and how hold your needle, how to get started, and a little bit about explaining the different types of needle. But I'd also like to say, you please feel free to get in touch with me anytime via email or messaging. I'd always try and come back and help you with a useful answer. Okay, so now I have a reasonably firm piece of core wool there. I've managed to keep inside the lines quite well today. Now we're going to cover that with a little bit of brown. I have this very light brown, and this one I really love, which is not a merino, it's more like a Corriedale mix, and it's got a bit of red in there, a bit of brown. It's beautiful to work with, especially for shapes that you want a little bit of bulk. I'm wanting the back leg higher at this point, because that's, if you imagine the deer when it's haunched over, the back haunch here is going to be a bit higher than the actual head. Not the head, with that sort of the body moving into the head there, if that makes sense. Right, so let's add our brown. I'm not going to do it to the base bit because that's going to be white. Just around the top here, I'm going to cover that with brown. I'm still able to use the same needle because it's quite coarse wool. If I were to use a really fine merino at this point, I'd be using a finer needle, otherwise it would leave pock marks. And around we go. Lovely. Okay, so now I've got that mostly coloured in brown, and I'm going to start thinking about back leg and how it curves round. So down, almost centre, I'm going to do a slight curve. Can you see how I've shaped that down the middle? A slight curve. And the bit to the right, I'm going to needle felt over a little bit longer to get it to sit lower. Not totally flat, I don't want it flat, just to sit lower. There we are. I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to get a little bit of the white that I have here. This is a lovely soft white, beautiful soft white. I prefer to use a natural white as opposed to a bleached white. Some they call them ivory or milk. Sometimes I've come across, and they're just bleached white, and they almost like glare at you. And if you're trying to do a natural animal, I find it's a little too much. So I've just blended those very coarsely. Again, if you want to look at blending, I've got those little videos that explain things like that. And I'm just going to do it as though it's on the tummy of the deer. So I'm going to tuck it up one end, tuck it up where the haunch line is, where I've put that back leg. Fit those endings in nicely. So they're all nicely tucked up. Bend it over, fold it back, and give it a smooth line coming forward. Don't have to worry too much about this end piece, because this bit here will all be covered with head. Doesn't matter which style you're doing, it will be covered with head. Tuck that in to get rid of it. Lovely. Now I'm going to make my leg to go in front, so I'm going to take off a bit of my core wool again. If you don't have any core wool, for this project, it is quite a small project, so you would be all right without it. But what you'll need to do is use a lot more of your soft wool, and it would take longer to felt it down. The core wool just is a time saver, really. So what I've done, I was talking about something else and working then. So I took my piece of white core felt, roughly a bit bigger than what I want for my leg shape. Looking back at our leg shape here, it's going to be coming down to the back, almost like a backwards going elbow or knee that goes backwards and then forwards. So I've got it like that, and I've twisted it and I folded it over at the end, and all that does, just a loose twist, that just gets rid of some of the loose fibres that can be a little bit annoying. And I'm starting the hoof end. So the hoof end I've fixed and attached in, which is pretty much at the same level end with end of the body. I'm leaving a gap. The leg isn't up against the body, it's slightly out. And then I'm going to work my way along all the way back to where the haunch line comes down. I'm not prodding my needle on top too much because that would just flatten it. What I'm doing, I'm securing it either side. So coming at it from underneath and on top. And that way I'm firming it in place without squashing it down too much. Now when I get back to where I want my leg to end and curve back up, it's got to have that backwards feel to it, that backwards bend to it. So I've folded it back, making sure that bend is very obvious, tucking it just in there. teasing out a little bit of black. I'm going to twist it. Because although it doesn't hold exactly where I twist it, it does give it a little bit of memory. And it does seem to get rid of some of the loose strands. The eye shape is going to be a crescent, like a hill shape. I fix it in the corner nearest the nose, fix it where I want it, and then gradually work up and over and fix it at the end. I fix it better at each end as opposed to on the arch. Turn it over and do the same the other side. Fixing it first nearer the nose. Up. And over. We have our deer's head, which I will trim later. We're going to add some ears. This is where you'll need a little bit of brown felt. Cut out your ear shape. And if you wish, you can do little horn buds as well. These are optional. With my brown wool, I'm going to fix my ears. I'm going to try and fold them and bend them slightly to give them a bit of shape. So I'm going to take a little bit of white and fix it down the centre of the ear, leaving it a little bit fluffy. Same with the other one. Pick it up, fold it over and prod it closed. It won't stay completely closed, but it will give your ear a little bit of shape. Trim off the back and the base. Fold this one over, lift, fold, prod down that central line where the fold is. Prod, prod, prod. Trim down the back, trim down the front, and you see it's just got that little bit of shape and form to it now. I'm going to put them on, fixing them in place with a little bit of my brown. Quite high up on the deer, so not down there, not up there, sort of at 2 o'clock, would you say? Facing backwards. Another one. You might find at this point that your head is misshapen a little bit, depending on how much you've felted and how sturdy your head is. And the deer has quite a large forehead, so making sure my ears are reasonably equally placed. I've got some more brown and I'm going to put it on top of the forehead, up there, and build that up and push it down around the ear joints. This disguises the join of the ear. Gives the deer that more realistic bulge of forehead. Now on this one, I'm going to show you how also you can put on 2 little horn buds. If you've got some yellow, this would be good, or you can use your light brown. I'm going to use a bit of the 2 at the moment. Blend them slightly. You could also use a little bit of light orange or rust coloured with some white. Divide that into 2, so I've now got 2 pieces. Roll it up slightly and then try and make it into a small sausage shape. I'm doing it into my mat. I'm going to pick it up and roll it over, and you'll find I'll have fluffy bits one side, but I don't worry too much because I'm going to trim those off. It's just really getting it to feel nice and dense at this point. You can start thinking about making one end more pointy as it begins to firm, the other end slightly thicker. Pick it up and then work it with your fingers, holding it between your thumb and your middle finger. Prod very gently the pointy end. Work your way down. Now these are just horn buds, so they don't need to be very long. Or you could try making antlers if you wanted to. Either on a base wire. So these little ones, I'm just going to have little buds because he's a baby deer, this one. So I just want it about that length. I don't want it very long. And tuck it in just above the ear. And make sure it goes to one side. Then do the other one. So first into the mat. Working up and down and up and down. Turn. As you can hear, probably you can hear the cars going by outside the shop, and I always start making my workshops, I suppose, mid-afternoon, and then I always forget that rush hour is going to begin at around 3:30, and it always does. So here we are. We're having rush hour at the moment. Now where I am in Somerset in England, and in a small town called Langport, which is a lovely place to live. It's on the river. It's on the levels, which is very flat land all around, which gets flooded during winter, but it's excellent pasture land, so we have a lot of cows about. But our immediate vicinity around Langport is rural. So I'd say many of our traffic going up the high street is quite often a tractor with a huge trailer on the back. And we even had horse and cart yesterday, which I really thought was rather special. We don't get that very often though. That was really rather nice. I'm just fixing on my other horn here. They're not quite the same size. Which is my fault for not double checking. And again, I'm going to use a little bit of my brown to disguise the join. And I think we're ready to put our little head onto our body. So here's our body. I can place it down so it's resting like that. So the nose I'm going to have resting on the leg to prod it in place. All the way around. Slightly tuck it in. And at this stage, because you haven't overly felted and it's not gone too firm, you can felt down your head to make it the size ultimately that you think fits the body shape. Okay, I'm going to use some more brown here and I'm going to bring it round because under my neck it's looking a little bit disjointed. So I'm going to bring that round. Because it's covered pretty much by the head, you don't need to worry about doing the knees. For the upright head, we're going to add knees at the front. Okay, so there is your deer, sleeping deer. All right, just like that. So now I'm going to take that head off and we're going to turn it into the deer with the head up. If you are happy with your sleeping deer just like this, then jump to the end of the video and we're just going to put some green grass around it and some white snow, and you can make a toadstool to go with it as well. So I haven't fixed the head very well, so I'm going to be able to pull it off very easily. And we'll start making our standing up head. So it's exactly the same thing. However, this time the eyes are going to be awake. So I'm going to add more black to my eyes either side and make them rounder. Now to make them realistic eyes, you can use a bead if you wish. You can use the black wool and shape like this, and with a dot of white to give it that little bit of sparkle. Or you can use a black bead. Now the eye I've added is like a diamond shape. Do it to the other side. Now although the deer's head is sitting up on a neck, because it's quite a short distance, we don't need any wire or anything like that inside. So here we have, I've now made it awake. It's woken up, it's had sweet dreams, and it's wide awake. I've taken a little bit of white. Now this, you need to be really delicate. A really small ball, a really little small ball of white. And the finest needle you've got. And we're going to put it inside the black, towards the back of the black of the eye. Whoop. They do roll away though. There we are. Can you see that? That's it. And put the other dot in the other side, in the same position. So now we have our deer that is awake. I'll trim those off because that's what, when I was attaching it to its body, it went all fluffy again. Okay, so now I'm going to make the neck bit. For the neck I'm going to use some cool wool, can be brown or the white, whatever you wish. Just needs to be like a trunk shape, a rounded trunk. Reasonably sturdy. Folding it over so you get it sturdy from all sides, and even the top. And then test it for height. Probably a little bit too high. Make it nice and sturdy. And then at one end, decide which one is going to be the top and which is going to be the bottom. So that's standing too high at the moment. If I put my deer's head on top, it's going to look a bit like an alpaca. That's an idea. I could make it into an alpaca if you did it in white. There we are. See, so it's a little bit, it's looking a little bit long. But however, what I'm going to do, I'm going to open it up at either end. Although I've felted it, I'm just going to open it up slightly that end, and open it up at the bottom. And that's going to help me fix it in place. So I've opened up the bottom. I'm going to rest it on the body, and those loose flared out bits I'm going to prod into the base, working all the way around. Just like that. Just like that. We're going to cover it with our brown that we've been using for the red body. Wrap it round like that. And fix that in place all the way around. Careful at this point not to cover all that lovely work you did by making the tummy a different shade. Remember we did the body, the tummy bit, the white and the light brown. So make sure you don't hide that with this brown that you're adding now. And as you can see, as I'm working my way up and down the neck, not only is it firming it and making it more secure, I'm able to shape it as well. Hold it upright though, you don't want it going and falling over. And make sure you work on it from all sides, all angles, otherwise you will find it goes, one side will go very flat and the other side will stay large and podgy. Round we go. And what I did mention was when you've got your head up, you can see the body of the deer so much more. So we're going to make it a little bit more realistic and add, if I go back to my original drawing, the two little dashes here, dashed lines, they're actually knees. If you look at a picture of a deer when it's sleeping, the front two legs poke out the front, they're little knees. It's very sweet. So I need a little bit more of my brown, and I'm going to make two knees. At the front here. One. Two. Now obviously if we're going to put white snow around our deer, certain shapes will show and certain shapes won't. So the brown next to the white will show, but the white next to the white won't show. So when we come to doing that, that's why I've added a little bit of green, as though either it's just snowed, or he's made a little warm patch in the snow which melted it, or maybe it's springtime and the grass is beginning to show through. So we're going to put the green down where the leg, between the leg and the body, and around that leg, and maybe a little bit at the back as well, just to make it look realistic. It's quite a good idea to do this before you fix your head on, because then your head doesn't get in the way. So I'm just going to put my green quite loosely. You go for whichever effect you like. You can felt it down, really embed it well, and then do little blobs of colour for flowers, or leave it slightly loose and fluffy looking, as you prefer. There you are, something like that. Even little bits going up if you wish to. Take it right around that leg and in that knee bit, all the way round. Now I'm going to add my head. So my head, I need a little bit more of my brown. I'd opened it up on top, remember? So I've got that flared effect at the top. Some brown at the ready. I think I'll attach it to my head. Can be looking whichever way you like. This deer can be looking forwards. This is the fun bit. All round. I'm going to have it facing inwards again, a bit like before. And I'm just working my way round with all that loose wool that I just added to the head. Working from up and down. This is the therapeutic bit, isn't it? This is the bit that we felters just really like. It does something for us, doesn't it? This constant prodding. What it is, I do not know, but it works miracles. So yes, just in there I'm missing a bit, so I'm going to add some more brown in there. Wrap it around the front. Make sure my head's sitting upright. Now at the front of my deer, I am going to add on this under bit of the neck coming down here some white, longer, fluffy fur, which they do have, especially even more so the young ones. So I've taken some white, laying it across like that. I'm going to fix it down the middle. So I'm putting that right across the neck, almost like a scarf, and I'm going to prod down the middle. Fix it in place down the middle in a straight line. You see how that's worked? Down the middle. Then I pull these ends back forward and I trim it off. And then very gently with the needle I shape it. Some are going to go up, some are coming to go and come down. And it gives it that little playful look. Time to snip and trim. And we're going to add some snow around it. If you have some red, by all means make some toadstools. Toadstools, I'm sure you can make to all sorts of different fun shapes as you wish. All I would say is, just as a little reminder, if you're going to make a toadstool or a mushroom, start with your core wool in the top if you can. If you go straight onto making it with your red, if it's a soft merino red, that is, if you've got a nice thick red, which you may well do, then that's absolutely fine. Jump straight in and make the top of your toadstool. But if not, start with your core wool first. And I'm going to take my snow all the way around. And you can be as imaginative as you like. Coming back to the one I made before, 2 little mushrooms on the back, which are actually rolled pieces of white felt covered in wool and little felted tops to them, and I've kept the underneath bits here fluffy. An old twig with some fake snow stuck on it. You can do all sorts of things. Get some lichen or some moss or all sorts of things. But I really hope you've enjoyed making your little deer. So I hope this season will be full of lots of lovely, comfortable, resting baby deer in their little snow glades. I am Liberty Goodswin, and if you want to have any questions answered of anything that I've said today, or you are felting and you have a query, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. Best way is probably either through my website at goodswinandbell.com or via Instagram under Goodswin and Bell. So I'm here. Find me on the High Street in Langport in Somerset. Check out my YouTube channel, Liberty Goodswin, for lots of other tutorials and helpful tips and hints. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.